If you were
Me
out
or him?
golfing. Yeah, you.
Well, I golfed yesterday, so
Mm.
I didn't see much of it yesterday, but
Right.
I got to see a little bit today. So, Scotty Scheffler.
He's so calm all the time, like just no emotion at all.
Oh, I know. And then with his wife being in labor, or he's gonna have a baby today too. That was gonna be interesting.
Yeah.
Well, he'd said that he was gonna leave. He was gonna withdraw if it happened during the tournament. So
Can't imagine that decision either, though. Is this
yeah,
his
well,
first kid or what? First one?
yeah, first kid. But I asked my wife. I go, $18 million on the line.
I was gonna say that's a lot of money.
Are you letting me take the 18 mil, or do I got to be there for the birth? She's like, you're taking the 18 mil. I'm like, all right. Sounds good.
Take that to casino and double, baby.
Like to be in a position where you can turn away 18 million.
Yeah, that too. That'd be ideal, but I don't think that's ever gonna happen to me.
No, me either.
We can dream, right? Stenda, you never know. He might.
Dude, I'm taking that 18 mil. I'm going to the casino, dude. I'm taking some of that going to the casino. Hand.
You'd be a terrible millionaire, is what you're saying.
The rest of it would be put away, but I'm taking a couple mil of that at the casino, and yeah, we're gonna double that. We're doubling it.
All right.
Maybe. We'll see.
That. We got Pete Tanzillo online already.
Pete's already there. He said, "What up, man?"
Yeah.
Pete, what is it? Pete Tanzillo?
Tanzillo,
yeah. He was my right-hand man there for a good run of basketball.
Oh, was he?
Yeah.
Yeah, his name might get brought up later.
Yeah, great coach.
Big room talk, yeah.
Can't go wrong with a guy named Pete, dude. You just can't go wrong with a guy named Pete. You know?
Filled a lot of roles for us, so.
I think we're good.
Right. Ready to roll?
Yeah, we got plenty on there. Yeah,
we're ready to roll. All right. This is Beyond the Scoreboard podcast. This is episode number 12. We are coming to you live here. First couple shout outs to AdCraft for sponsorship with our t-shirts. If anybody wants a t-shirt, contact me or Stenda and we can hook you up. Also make sure you like and follow our Facebook page, Twitter page, X page, whatever they call it now. And follow us on there. We have a guest tonight. His name is Travis Eversmeyer. So Coach Eversmeyer, if you want to just give a brief introduction of yourself to the viewers before we start rolling, and then we'll get into the questions.
Thanks for joining us. Thanks for having me. But I'm Travis Eversmeyer, head softball coach at Northeast. And before that, I was the head basketball coach as well. And I've been an assistant coach in football before too. Before coaching, I played basketball at the Mount in Clinton. Had some great teammates that are still in the area and some great friends there. So I'm really excited to be on here. I know that in the past I was probably public enemy number one in Comanche. So I'm looking forward to that talk at the end about the rivalry. So
yeah, baby.
Yeah, those are fun for sure. We'll get into that, no doubt. Before you brought up you played at the Mount, who was the best player you played with at the Mount, you think?
So I watched your Ben Irwin little episode there, and I would probably say he's the best scorer that I've ever played with, high school or college. He's a phenomenal scorer. Like, he could stretch four. He can take you off the dribble. He's tough. I watched him blow up his ankle. Just complete sprain, and he continued to play, and I think he had like 20 points the second half. And I'm telling you, this thing was as big as a softball, and he just kept toughing it out. So he did some unbelievable stuff. I wish we had a little more depth. I always thought our starting five was pretty good and competitive, but had the opportunity to play with Samori Mussington, Cash Bim, a lot of those good guys too. So Ben was at the start of my career, and Cash was towards the end. So that debate was kind of funny, but I will say I don't think they were the same player at all. Like, Ben would probably, understanding that he had a little more quickness on Cash, pull him out and probably try to take him off the dribble, but Cash would probably back him down. And Cash is a good stretch too. He could hit that 3-pointer. So
yeah. Man,
Yeah.
Ben's
Well,
probably watching this, dude, and you just pumped his head up,
I
coach.
was going to
Come
say,
on.
you don't need to do that to Ben. He's way above it.
You could have said, like, dude, Ben, he was mediocre at best. That's what you could have
It's
said.
the truth, though. I mean, I think he had like 1,200 points in 2 seasons. Like, it was really impressive. So
Yeah, that is impressive. All right, cool. Hopefully Ben's listening. We'll see.
Oh, you know he is. You know he is.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. First topic we want to get into is kind of weight room with high school athletes. So obviously now with a lot of schools doing upgrades to their weight room, different facilities. Like for example, at Comanche, we just got a brand new weight room facility. It's really nice, really big, and kind of that opportunity there. So Sten and I are talking about this, and kind of your 1A through 4A, 5A schools are all kind of on the same playing level for the most part with weight training. So how has that changed help you and your softball program when you were with basketball? Coach Eversmeyer, kind of explain that a little bit to us,
kind of want to
please.
go all the way back to my high school experience. So we had to go morning or after school late after practice, but usually you were getting up at 6 a.m. to come into the weight room, and there's no opportunity during school. We weren't doing like the speed focus or the explosiveness. It was more like get bulky and the bigger, faster, stronger program, the Olympic lifts. Now it's kind of changed to just the total athlete, because we're aware that we have so many multi-sport kids that they have to be explosive in different things and different movements. So that's changed a lot. At Northeast, it was the same way until about 4 years ago. I would say around the COVID year, we finally got strength and conditioning put into our curriculum. So it's a great opportunity for our kids. They don't have to get up in the morning anymore. They can do it during school. And it started that way with Pete Tanzillo, who you talked about, him being on here already. But he started that program. Now he's down at the elementary school teaching our kids movements down there. So now it's Ben Hildebrandt. And I would say we probably have, I think he told me the other day, we have 135 kids enrolled in Rebel PE. So most of our athletes are lifting during the day. So big evolution. We went from a small little weight room, and Pete made the move to get it out by our ag building. So we doubled in size. He got brand new equipment by the Booster Club, and he did a lot of work to get that done, and it's in a good place for us right now.
Yeah, I think like a lot of the game changer is having it during the day too, because like you were saying, like I'm thinking back when I played even too, really we would lift in the summer, and once season started, we really didn't do much lifting, honestly. I mean, because like you said, we either got to come early in the morning or we just didn't do it during our practices either. So having it during the day.
We called it Breakfast Club, I think, and we got a T-shirt for being in there. And then they would do the pound clubs and stuff just to get people excited. But I mean, you knew you weren't going to get to play. Probably we had a decent football team when I was going through Wapello, and you knew you weren't going to play if you didn't lift weights. So it was kind of cool there too. My senior year, we didn't have first block class. We had kind of the open campus, and my buddies and I would go make breakfast at everybody's house after we would lift weights. So just another opportunity there, but having school just completely changed the game.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you guys. Is I remember, we're talking. You guys kind of take it back when you guys were both in smaller schools, right?
Like we were a 1A.
Yeah. And I think, when you go back to, like the 90s and the mid 2000s, the small schools, like you're talking about, the game changer is that you have it in school all year round, like 9 months where they know they can get you're not just talking do bigger, faster, stronger. You're talking plyometrics, speed and agility, the advancements. Like when I was at Clinton, that was just coming in where you could take weightlifting as a class. And we knew that like those smaller schools around at that time, which was 17, 18 years ago, Comanche, Northeast, they didn't have that. Like that wasn't there. So a lot of those kids, like you guys were saying, they may lift a little bit in the summer, but the rest of the year they're just in other sports, and they're not getting that same training that everyone else is getting. So my point, what I wanted to say to you guys was, a comment that I think it was Sean Lawrence made on one of the last episodes. He said, about the, a 2A kid now dominating football. Could he do it in 4A? I think 15, 20 years ago, no, because they weren't getting that same opportunity to train and become the best athlete. But now, do you really think there's a difference between a 2A kid or a 1A kid dominating at quarterback, running back, offensive line, and let's say he moves up to like a 4A? Is that really going to be any change now with the advancements that you guys have at all levels?
I mean, I think like a kid like Preston Reese at Monticello, he could play at any program. Cam Buffington down at Winfield Mount Union, he's playing 8-man football, but he weighs 240 pounds and can hammer dunks like crazy. And he's 6'2". He's also going to the Hawkeyes to play linebacker, full scholarship. Like, you're exactly right. It's providing them opportunities to compete no matter who they're going against. And you're starting to see some of these small school kids really break through at the next level.
Yeah. And
what do you think? I mean, Coach Coyle, I mean, you have that with Comanche. I mean, obviously, I mean, it's changed over the years.
Yeah. And I think the other aspect of it is too, I think like maybe 15, 20 years ago, the bigger schools had strength and conditioning guys like within their program.
Yep.
And like the smaller schools really didn't have, they just maybe had a PE teacher or a coach just doing it, doing weight training stuff and maybe not been certified in the strength and conditioning part. Now you're seeing, I mean, small schools are paying strength and conditioning coaches. We're in the works with Coach Brady Beal, trying to get him. He does all like ton of stuff in there already, but we're trying to get him to be just that dude and get some money for him. But and I think that makes a difference too, because then you got knowledgeable guys. I mean, yeah, you can have a coach be like, oh yeah, you need to do some hang clean and do the, kind of show them the form, but are they really able to like create a program, and then those strength and conditioning guys like a Pete Tanzillo, Brady Beal, those kind of guys are that's what they went to school for. So and I think a lot of small schools have that now too.
Yeah, I mean, we're fortunate. We had Pete first, and now we have Ben Hildebrandt. They're both certified by the national board. Like they are big timers. And I know Ben was speaking at a clinic last year at Mount Vernon to some coaches about what he does with some of the speed development stuff. And I think too, like being a girls coach, there's a huge stigma 5-6 years ago on them not wanting to get bulky. And I think now they're understanding that it's lean muscle mass and it's not possible. You're not developing testosterone. So like, right. Yes, you're going to get a little of that lean muscle and you're going to look good, but it's not like you're going to be bulky like a boy. And now like all of our girls, I can honestly say, I think right now we have close to 30 girls that are in the weight room regularly off our softball team, meeting the requirement. Then our principal has kind of been forthcoming too. She is allowing during our homeroom time, if they missed a lift, it counts as a class, like a missed assignment. So now they can go in during homeroom time, make up a lift, or if they have all their homework caught up, they can go in there and do a sports-specific movement with Coach Hildebrandt. It's really developing, and I think our girls are gaining confidence. Last year was the first time too. I mean, it was mandatory lifting during the summer for our girls as part of the program, so it counted as a missed practice if you didn't get in there. And it got to state time when we were going to Fort Dodge. They wanted to continue lifting. We didn't have any options, so we actually brought our own equipment, and they lifted out in like the courtyard at Iowa Central on game day. So just kind of cool how over time it was like, oh, I don't want to lift, it's a game day. And now it's like, no, there's been a lot of studies showing that it fires the nervous system and gets some of the juices flowing. So
yeah,
good opportunities there.
Yeah, we went to a football clinic in March, and the head strength coach at Mount Vernon, Preston Peterson's his name, he was there, and he did a speech on they call them pregame primers the football team. And it was the best coach that I listened to that whole weekend. And it wasn't like football specific necessarily, and he, just like you said, Travis, it's all about firing up that central nervous system. They're doing that before every game, and kind of, so, you see teams go out there and do all their stretching and all that stuff. And that kind of takes place of that. And their pregame warmups, a lot shorter, quick, that kind of stuff, getting them focused and firing that up. So, and we're actually, Coach Beal and I they're doing a day of learning in Mount Vernon in a couple of weeks. Coach Beal and I are going to go to that. And get some ideas and see how they do that and all that. One other question, you said the required lift. So like the kids that take it during the day, are they have requirements with the sport or just requirements as far as the class goes?
Just the class.
Okay.
And I know he's gonna it's an opportunity for him to make it up right now. That part is obviously when they're in there, I have a prep period, third period, and I get to go in there and watch him work, and he's phenomenal, and the kids are really bought into it. But he's talking now, if you take this class and you miss a day, then you have to make it up for part of your grade. Now it's even developing into that, and there's going to be even more accountability. So, but I think they really appreciate not getting up at 6 a.m. I know Coach Tanzillo did that for years. But now that opens the weight room for the middle school. Now it's not going to be crowded, and they're not going to be intimidated. So they come in 2 days a week right now in the mornings. So gives them an opportunity to get their feet wet, learn the movements without having the pressure of a senior standing right behind you telling you what to do. So,
right. Yeah, that's just got to be, like you said, the game changer part of having it in school all year round. It just puts everybody in the same, on the same level playing field. There's nobody can be well, we don't have these opportunities because, it doesn't matter if you're in a small school or a big school. Those opportunities to train 9 months out of the year are there. And like you guys said, they don't have to come in early. They don't have to come after school. You get credit for it. I mean, I think that's the best thing they ever, have ever done over, the last 15 years. Cause I always wondered if it always just stay that way, because I always just assumed, those small schools, it would be, we just need to field a team, right? We just need to get as many kids out. Where at bigger schools, you have more to choose from. But now you might have more to choose from in a big school, but the small schools, they get their group and then those kids are working just like the kids are in a big school. Now you're on the same playing field. There's really not much of a difference.
No, and I know our non-conference schedule for softball this coming year, it's everybody that you can think of, 4A or 5A is our non-conference. And we're on the same field, and we're not intimidated by them anymore. We've done this enough now, scheduling wise, and we're competing against each other in the weight room every day. So you're the same physical tools as these people.
Yeah.
Maybe they're not as good as what you thought they were. Let's go compete. So
yeah, that's cool.
That's cool. How long are your classes?
So we have 75-minute blocks, which is nice because even then they're not rushed. He'll put them through a little speed development at the beginning or a dynamic warm up of some sort, and then they go into the weight room. And I think the way he breaks it up now, they have 2 sessions of 16 minutes. So they'll have 3 or 4 lifts that they rep out as much as they can for the 16 minutes that the timer's going on the TV. And then so those are his set A's, and then he has his set B's and another 16-minute segment. And then after that's done, they still have some leftover time. So now the rest of PE, they've already put in the work. Now they're shooting hoops or they're hitting the volleyball around, doing stuff they want to do. So, I mean, I think that keeps them engaged too.
Yeah.
See, we only have 45-minute class periods. So really isn't a lot of times enough time. So it's hard to get all that in. And then Coach Beal's not a teacher, but he comes in at the end of the day and has some kids come in that either didn't get finished or just get their workout in that way. But
and you guys see those same kids every single day?
No. So they only have PE twice a week and 3 times every other week. So we alternate Wednesdays. Yeah. So we split up boys and girls, Monday, Thursdays, boys class, Tuesday, Fridays, girls, and then they alternate Wednesday. Yeah, so really, I mean, that's probably not enough either. And I know
I don't understand that across the whole state either. The requirement on PE, that's not enough. And then when you're and I'm not seeing it a lot at our school, but I know there's an obesity problem in the United States, and these kids aren't working out enough, and they're sitting on all the technology they have at their fingertips and not actually being active. Well, I know my son and daughter at the elementary, they only have, I think, PE twice a week. I mean, or once every 3 days. It's I don't know. It's not enough.
Well, yeah. And it's you being a teacher, it's more focused on all the state testing and getting all that stuff done, which is important, obviously, but PE and being active obviously is as well. But yeah, the whole class time for us, I mean, with 46-minute class periods, by the time, we get kids into the weight room, take attendance, where there's 5 minutes there, and then giving them probably 5 minutes at the end. So really, we're only getting about 30-35 minutes for that, which would be nice to be
You gotta be
longer.
super efficient then.
Yeah. And sometimes it's not, but
Right. Yep.
but yeah. So the next question I had with that, and I don't know if you guys run into this much, but what do you say to the kid that now having it during the day, for you guys having 75 minutes, that's obviously a lot better in our situation, but I'm sure you have kids that say they go lift other places. Like, how do you handle that, or what do you say to that one?
I can't speak for him right now, but I know like towards the end of Coach Tanzillo's run, and maybe if he's on here, he can comment in the group. But I think as long as they were working out during the school day with Rebel PE, they were okay. Him and Coach Hildebrand. Like, if you have a membership to Cookies in Preston, then go use it, but just understand you've already worked out and maybe not put extra stress. But so I think some of the kids are even kind of going away from that crave a little bit, but 5 years ago, for sure, they were doing that. They were telling us, oh, we're going here. We're not doing the school stuff. But I never really understood that either. Like, some of the best times with your teammates are in the weight room when you're working out together and you're pushing each other and encouraging each other. So I don't know. I used to love lifting with my teammates, and I never understood when they would go other places, but
yeah. And I mean, being the football coach, that's probably, I mean, I'm biased, but I would say that's one of the sports where you have to be a team probably the most, and there's more guys involved in the team, like you have 11 guys out there at the same time. So just the battles you're going to go through with those guys, and if you're going through those in the weight room too, that's just going to help your team, obviously. Right. And I mean, same thing for softball and basketball and stuff, but you just have more guys playing at once, I think. So, but yeah, we have that too, and a lot of times you can tell which kids are actually doing other stuff and tell you they are but aren't, so
yeah.
But you guys could probably figure that out pretty quickly. A kid that's like got a gym membership to, I don't know, Anytime Fitness or whatever it is, you would be able to pick out like, yeah, he's not doing his workouts that he has. You would, I mean, I would think whether it's softball, baseball, especially football, you're like, yeah, this kid, he's bench pressed, for the last 6 months, but he hasn't squatted or
curls. So they're super top heavy with pencil legs. Like, see those kids walking around.
Yeah. See, we never, and I just go back to all I can speak on is when I was at Clinton is nobody ever went anywhere. There was Bob Weber's at the time, and I know he's still around, but there was, they pretty much, the ultimatum was you're going to be here or you're not going to play. That's what it was. And they just, they could do that because there were enough kids to mold and then weed out the ones that didn't buy in. But there was not one place I ever lifted weights in 4 years at Clinton High School other than Clinton High School in the weight room. And, there were some kids that played one sport and went to the Y, but you could tell when they showed up for, let's say, basketball, that's the only sport they played. You're like, yeah, they weren't doing probably the stuff they should have been doing to get better for basketball. So it was just kind of like, yeah, I mean, you just went to the school and you guys both make good points having the guys there. I mean, that was the reason why you went out for sports, was to be around everybody else that you're friends with. And, even some of the people that you didn't like, you end up building a good relationship with them down the road. So I think it builds more unity as a whole than anything.
Right. And go ahead.
And it's free.
Yeah. Right.
Like, you don't have to pay anything, or, I mean,
and essentially you have a personal trainer too, like
right.
Two guys we have. I know you said Coach Beal, same thing. Like, they've earned a lot of respect in the community and with the kids. Like, they care about them so much more than just athletes. And it's so cool that you have somebody to actually tell you what to do, not just wonder if I should do 150 curls today or
right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yep, for sure. Stenda, you got any other weight room thoughts?
No, I think you guys hit on everything. Yeah, I got nothing.
I'll I'll read Pete's comment because he said the kids going other places. I always told them it's easier for me in the private sector to change up your workout, get your workout done at school, and then we can switch things up on my end. So, yeah, basically, I think what he's saying is do what you're supposed to at school, and then talk to them about what you're doing out of it, and then switch accordingly. Yeah.
Yeah, I think as long as you're educating them, like, hey, you might be overworking right now because you've already done this strenuous activity at school, and now, like, maybe just giving them some guidance of things they could be doing on their own too. That just a little education for the kid.
Yeah. And then, do you see
Ben Irwin said, Travis and I lifted hard in college.
Yeah.
I know Ben didn't.
I was just gonna say that you could tell that that dude did not pick up a weight. No.
We might have skipped a few classes to play Madden back in the day too.
Was that when Mike Vick was on the cover, like 2002?
Yeah. I think it actually was. So
it's a great game.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So next, we'll get into some specific softball questions a little later, but kind of switching gears here. A lot of debate, I think, with in Iowa, at least, because Iowa is the only state that has summer baseball and summer softball as for their school sport. I know I've read some rumblings of maybe changing that into the spring and not having it in the summer anymore. What are your thoughts as the softball coach of summer softball moving to the spring? What would you prefer?
I think you guys talked about this a week or two ago a little bit, but
yeah,
I'm against it, honestly. I think summer is good for us. We're the only show in town. Like, we don't really have to worry about the overlap of track, soccer, golf. Like, there's just, in my opinion, there's too many girl offerings in the spring already, and it would hurt all programs if you did softball. Like, an example of this would be in 2015 and 16, I had Alina Marcusi, who was state champion. I think she won state in the long jump, the hurdles, like Division I track athlete. I was thinking when I was reading through your questions earlier, like, what would she have chosen? Like, I know she might have tried to do both, but would she have been as good as she was at both if they're at the same time? Or would we have to get creative? Like, she's going to a track meet tonight, so I don't have my 5-time All-State shortstop. Like, what's going to happen here? So I personally am against it. Another reason, like, I don't know why I was doing this, but the other day I saw national rankings for high school softball, and there was 3 teams in Illinois that were in there. And I think they were all 5-0 or 4-1 at the time. And then you see the Georgia teams that are 25-2. Like, Midwest is not good in the spring. Like, I think February was better than March weather-wise, and you could get outside. But now it's like we finally hit a good weekend here, and you're not always getting that in the spring. So those are some reasons why I think they should stay. Like, I don't want to compete for kids with another sport. So, and I understand the whole, I'll let you get to the other questions later before I answer that, but
I know, like, I grew up in Illinois, played in Illinois, and just, I was always so used to baseball in the spring, and that's because that's what they did. And then when I came over here to teach and coach, and then it was in the summer, I'm kind of like, well, that's weird. And I guess and that's kind of the next question I think you're getting ready to answer. But obviously in our small schools, we have a lot of kids that are multi-sport athletes, So for your example, you have a softball player, maybe a volleyball player, and probably some that also play basketball. And then right now, obviously you're going to overlap a little bit with track once you start in 2 weeks. But in the summer, how do you, because they're doing volleyball stuff in the summer, they're doing basketball stuff in the summer, and they're also doing obviously their season. So how do you work with those other coaches and balance all that out?
So I used to be a basketball coach too, so I understand the whole pull to get them in the gym, and we're just under the understanding that, like, if it's a game day, then they're just going to do their shooting workout or their ball handling with basketball. And then once July rolls around and we're in the postseason, then our athletes are off limits. Like, it should be like, finish out the sport that you're in before you get excited about the next one. So it's just kind of been the understanding. Coach Driscoll's done a good job that way. I know volleyball isn't really going to hit it heavy until late July. Like, they get 4 or 5 weeks of practice before their first competition. and we're already done. So she's like giving them a lot of June off, which I was kind of thrilled about. Like she'll have some hitting camps and stuff that they can choose to go to. And I don't know. Like it's so hard. Like I was looking at my own schedule the other day, and now my son's in T-ball, my daughter's in 8U travel softball. I'm doing varsity, and I think I have 4 days off from now until July. So I understand the whole. It would be nice to have a summer. I haven't had one in 16 years. I don't know what I would do with it, but the same token, like it's just so hard to share. And I'm even thinking about Mount Vernon, and they have every year 6 girls that are awesome on their soccer team that play softball too. Well, would they have to choose, or would it be able to work out? I just don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I know because when in Illinois, I know we had several kids that would do track and baseball both. But you always ran into some conflicts, you got to practice both. Sometimes competition days are the same days. So a kid would have to pick like their primary. And then if there's a conflict, they go to that primary sport. But then as a coach, you're like, because most of the time those kids were starting on the baseball team or softball team, and also one of the better track runners. So as each coach kind of gets like, gets upset because they, like you said, then you don't have Marcusi, your 5-time All-State shortstop, and because she's winning a track state championship or something like that, So
Right.
Yeah, it is tough for sure.
I don't know. And then like the odds of us playing on a good night in the summertime are way better. Like we said, like the weather is just beautiful in the summer usually. I mean, it gets a little hot, but I'd rather have that for the softball than what I'm experiencing with my 8-year-old daughter right now. Like we're supposed to play this coming weekend. It's supposed to be 48 degrees. Like, I'm not really wanting that. So,
I mean, how would you even get around the snow? I just don't get that. Like it'd be so hard starting in the beginning of February when it could snow until May in Iowa. Right. I mean, and how cold? I mean, I just wouldn't. I don't think I wouldn't want as an athlete. And this is, and I guess nobody brought this up, but I wouldn't want, I mean, when you have that whole summer, like, what it's like to be a high school kid, 16, 17, 18, you can get into a lot of things when you don't have stuff going all the time. Yes, they do for 9 months out of the year, but they're already used to doing that for the 9 months. To me, it kind of keeps them in that, hey, they're always going. Because if I can imagine when I was 17 and I had the whole summer off, like some of the things you could partake in might not be good things, because just going to the weight room 3 or 4 times a week for an hour and a half, is that enough, to keep you occupied, and I know most kids are, a kid's a kid, but those, that those bad opportunities are out there when they're not doing something. There's a lot of things they can get into that could hinder them for other sports. So I wouldn't want it to change. I'd like it, keep it the way it is,
And that's where I think even the big schools have the advantage too, because they have a little more specialization. Like you're probably seeing a 2-sport athlete, maybe a 3, but you're not getting the 4 sports. So like Coach Floyd, I know you want those football players that are probably working out, doing football stuff 2 days a week, or going to a 7-on-7. You might not have that opportunity because they have a baseball game. Well, I get that side of it too, but my only worry if it goes to the spring sport, like outside of cancellations and things, it's like, what if that is your primary sport is softball, and you're only going to play 14 regular season games because you can't get them in? I don't know. So,
especially
I think
what the big was.
I mean, and growing up playing in Illinois, I remember there were some 30, 40 degree weather baseball games, and those aren't fun. You get one off the end of the bat, and that hurts your hand a lot more. But
and most of the good bats now are composite, so it even says right on the handle, like, you won't get a warranty if you use this bat under 50 degrees. Well, half your season's going to be that. So.
True. As far as, you mentioned, like we have some 7-on-7 stuff, but we're doing a couple with the Clinton in the morning, so it doesn't conflict with baseball, and they're on Wednesdays when we usually don't play baseball games. So we worked around that, but I have gotten when I first took over head coach, like I was probably doing too much in the summer. You know, obviously we were lifting because you have to, and then there'd be a couple days a week I'd do some field stuff. But listen to like a bunch of other coaches talk, you know, especially small school coaches. We're cutting back this year. We're cutting like 5 or 6 different outside days than what we normally do, just so that 3-4 sport athlete can kind of be a kid too in the summer, you know, because I mean, a kid that plays football, basketball, track, and then goes into baseball right away, like they're nonstop, you know, and you got to let them have some fun there every once in a while too. So,
And you got a long sport too, so it's like,
mhm.
I mean, they're going to be playing for 3 months with you, and if they
Yeah.
hear your voice the entire summer, on them, you
Well,
start to.
and like we had Coach Wilson from Monticello on here. I don't know, a couple of weeks, whatever it was, but he made a comment, and this is kind of what stuck in my head. He's like, I want our football guys to be excited come August 1st, so we don't do a ton in the summer, because kind of what you're saying, they're not hearing my voice, and get them excited rolling into your season. So I
That's
think
what I
that
like about
carries
girls
some weight.
softball too. Is you get 10 contact days for hitting, but they have to be documented in the office. Like, and I know people are stretching the limits, but we are not. Like, we're using the 10 days, and it's the same thing I was telling Coach Anderson. And it seemed like last week when we did open field, like they finally got outside for the first time, and they were so excited. And that's all they're talking about is like, cannot wait for 3 weeks from now. And I mean, here we are. Like, I'd rather have that than 3 open gyms a week where they're getting completely like, oh my, I have to go to open gym.
Mm-hmm.
That is nice, yeah. And then the state, that's what the state rule is, right? With
Yep.
10 days, yeah.
So.
Do you get a pitchers and catchers limit too, or no?
Pitchers and catchers can be unlimited from January 1. I'm fortunate enough that a lot of mine go to outside places for pitching. All of them actually have a pitching coach. So
Nice.
we bring them in 1 day a week in the morning, just so the catchers can get acquainted with our pitchers. But other than that, it's like, hey, I trust you're doing work outside of here. So we don't need to wake up every morning of the week.
Yeah.
All right. Next line of, we're gonna throw some questions at you about basketball, softball before we get into our Northeast Comanche rivalry talk. But
All right.
so I know Stinda posted on our page kind of your records in basketball and in softball. You coached 10 years at Northeast varsity basketball, 167 and 67. Top 5 defensive team in state for 5 years of the 10. 2 conference championships. And I put, which I think is the hardest 1A, 2A conference in the state. Obviously I'm biased, but it's a really good basketball conference, I think. So I was assistant basketball coach with Josh Davis for 9 years at Comanche. And when you resigned for basketball, I was kind of surprised by it. I think some people here in Comanche were too. So if you want to answer this, and you don't have to if you don't want to, but why did you step down from basketball, given that you only had 10 years in, and obviously still have a lot of years left to coach?
You know, I'm still going to some games, and I sit up and the juices start flowing again. Like, you're up in the bleachers and you're thinking about what you would do, and it just became really hard. And at that time, we didn't have huddle assist. Like, we had huddle, but we didn't have huddle assist. And then it became like you could get consumed because you could get every game film of the other opponent. So I probably watched, I don't even want to know how many hours of film, just trying to be prepared. Coach Tanzil and I would always like be throwing ideas off each other. It just became really, really hard. And a lot of people don't know this, but I like had some health issues at the end of every season, like just worn down, not sleeping enough, drinking way too much pop, doing things like that, just not good things for you. And my body would just crash after the season, and it'd probably take me 3 or 4 days. And then I was getting in a depressive state. Like, you're so close to the state tournament. We never made one in my 10 years, but we were always close. And you think about it too, like the teams that we would lose to would end up going to state and getting top 4. And it's just like, man, what would happen if the entire area wasn't as good as what it was, or like if you got a little bit better draw. So that led to some issues, and then it's just not real fair to my family either. Like I was never with my newborn kids. Like just basketball is such a grinder, and my wife did a great job of holding down the fort while I was at basketball things, but at the end of the day, like I want to be able to be a part of my kids and do those things. And it's even hard in softball right now. Like I said earlier, you got Will and you got Kenzie doing all this other stuff, and I am going to have to miss some stuff for the first time, and not excited about that. So I don't know. There's a lot of reasons that went into it. I still have a love for the game. I'm actually coaching third grade girls basketball right now, and that was interesting, to say the least. You're communicating on a different level, but I loved every minute of it. I think we had a respectful program that had a lot of coach relationships in the conference too that you step away from. You still see them and talk to them, but it's not the same not being the coach, but I think it was the right decision.
Yeah, I would think, and for both of you guys having kids and all those things, like being two head coaches, like of varsity sports. I mean, that just to me seems like that's just way too much. It doesn't matter where you're coaching 1 or 4A. Like, how would you would never, that would be a single man's game. That would be for, the single guy that doesn't have kids and isn't married. You guys put you guys there. It's like, you got wives and kids and stuff like that's where would be your downtime?
Right.
Like where would you find downtime?
And again, in the summertime, it was just impossible because we would play in the St. Ambrose League on Wednesday night for basketball, but then you'd be playing a 40-game schedule on top of having practices, and then you would go to a Sunday shootout. I think the one summer it was like I had one Sunday off where I wasn't in softball or basketball, and I did that for 10 years straight. So then get married in 2014, have my first child in 2015, and I still do that for another 4 years, and it's like, it's not sustainable, and to do it right, I guess. And that was a big fear too. Like when you step away, it's like, the program's still set up for success. Like they still have had a winning season in every year since I resigned, and Brandon's doing a good job there. But it's like, it's just not sustainable, and it wasn't the way that I wanted to do it. So if I couldn't put my whole heart into it, it's not fair to the kids. It's not who I am. I want to be able to look myself in the mirror and say, you know what, you did that right. Like you're doing those little things. So again, very hard decision, but you got to do that sometimes. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, very valid. And I mean, I think, I don't really know your wife, but you got to have like a special person to be that coach's wife, just to, the time that we all put in, if we're doing it the right way, like you said. Because I know like during football season, I lose out on a lot of family time, because like you said, the amount of minutes and hours that we're putting into film and all that. So it obviously takes very special person to hold the fort down, like you said, and be part of that and supportive. And
especially when you have little kids. Like right now, I get to take my son and my older daughter, to practices every day with. Like these girls are their family too. Like it is so cool to see the relationship they're building. But when I was doing basketball, she was 3 years old and he was 1, and it's like you can't bring them anywhere. So then and we had to find daycare, and we have to do all this other stuff because she's working her tail off too for a career. So it just wasn't fair to her at the end of the day. She didn't ask me to resign. It was completely my decision. And but yeah.
Yeah. And that's Knox is 9, and he last 2 years has been our water boy. And it is just really cool to see the high school kids just like gravitate toward him, and he goes up to them, and he's, I want to be like Bryce Buckley, and the things like that. It's just cool to see. I take him to team dinners, and he can just kind of be with the boys. So it's a good thing.
She got to stay in the dorms with us last year at the state tournament, so it was kind of cool to have her there with you and experience that. See the girls on a different level than just a softball player too. Like they have personalities, they have fun. So
yeah, and you probably have some babysitters too.
Yeah,
when you and your wife want to go to
ones, actually. So
yeah,
it's been pretty nice.
No, that is nice for sure.
Yeah, hey, you ain't got to play them. You just if they watch the kids, they get playing time, right?
It helps. Yeah.
I'm not gonna comment on that one. Sorry.
I'm just kidding, man.
Maybe some bribes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are under the table though. Can't talk about those. Couple other basketball questions quick here. So the one thing I respected, I mean, obviously we Comanche Northeast didn't really like each other when we played, right? So, but we always obviously respected you, especially when you were the head coach. And just we always knew going into that game, like we were going to get a tough, physical, hard nosed type team, defensively, especially. At the high school level, I mean, you have certain teams that are, some years really good defensively, but you year in and year out just kept pumping good defensive teams. How did you get that buy-in from your guys to defend like they did on each and every night?
To be honest, I didn't really have a choice. When Pete came over, he had played for Oliver Drake at the Mount, and they were one of the best defensive teams in NAIA. So when I convinced him to be my assistant coach, we went over and watched some of his practices and really got to know his pack line defense a little more. Like I always thought we were good on defense before, but around 2014-15, I think we took the real big step, and it became like this needs to be our priority. Like if we're not shooting well, defense is going to keep us in every single game. And we had some talented offensive players too, but it was just amazing, like watching them defend and just the blue collar mentality. And I think our fans fed off of that. I mean, they traveled everywhere. Like we had the bigger crowd than the home games most of the time. Like didn't matter where we went. They were there. And I think they appreciated that blue collar, but to build it, like he had some pressure spots is our number one thing. So it's 3 lines, you roll the ball out, and it's like a perfection drill. If you don't have a good closeout, if you don't dive on the floor for a loose ball, if you don't run to pick your teammate up after he dives, like just all this culture building stuff. And that was probably until Christmas break every year. So the first half of your season, you're kind of wearing them out a little bit, but you're building those habits. And even in the summertime, like I remember someone going to Snow Valley and they would be the demonstrators of the defensive drills, which was kind of making me happy. Like the closeouts were outstanding and the help defense. I wish we played back then in the shot clock era that they have now, because we had some possessions. I mean, we were pack line, so we're not necessarily getting in the passing lane away from the ball, but we're pressuring the ball hard. But you're going to have a contested shot every single time, and we're going to gap defense. So, but now I think we could have forced some really, really bad shots. So, but
yeah, that would have been a game changer because you didn't coach any games the shot clock, right?
No,
as head coach. Yeah,
no.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
But I mean, sometimes our games were low scoring because we didn't have the shot clock. So, but we weren't a team that just wanted to hold the ball on offense either. Like our defense led to our offense most of the time. Like we had some really talented players that could get out and run the floor, and we weren't afraid to shoot the 3. But we also had some great post players, so we knew we had to play inside out basketball. But defense was always the calling card, and I think that's what I'm the most proud of. Is just like anymore, kids don't want to work that hard, in my opinion, on the defensive end, and those kids, like, that's who they were, and they even come back to games now and they're watching our team currently or our team or who they're playing, and it's like defense maybe not the number one priority for them, and they're still a very talented group and they're winning games, but like we're talking 1 year playing man-to-man defense, we gave up 35 points a game. Like that's getting it done. So
yeah, it's impressive.
Yeah. I mean, you gotta, I mean, if you look at it now, like for sports, most kids everything is offense driven. When you watch professional sports, NFL, definitely NBA, MLB. So to be able to create that culture, that's pretty impressive, I think, because, you get them to understand, like, back to reality, like, hey, like you can win. And that probably would you say that created more opportunities for other kids to get on the floor?
Absolutely. I mean, we'd probably play 8 or 9 deep every night, but if you couldn't defend, you probably weren't going to play. Like it's just the way it was. But an average offensive player now has a role. Like I'm going to go shut down the other team's best player, or you get that special kid like a Will Haskin that is an unbelievable defender, and his offense probably struggled a little bit because he was so tired. He had to shut down the other team's best player, but he was like unanimous first team all conference and an all-state player, only averaging 14 points a game. It wasn't because he wasn't good on offense. I just think he was extremely tired by the end. He never come out. So he's probably a kid that everybody hated to play against. Super nice kid, but I don't think I've seen a better high school defender than what he's been. So
he was one of those kids that he'd always make the big play too. Like when you needed a play, you're going to him, and he's one of those kids like you hated playing against, but you love him if he's on your team. One of those guys.
Right.
Probably like Cam Sinkson for us. We loved him. Great,
right.
Obviously great basketball player, but I don't think many RBC teams liked him. So
that's all right. I mean,
yeah, it's all good. Yeah,
and we're seeing that across the board right now in women's basketball, even like all the hatred for Caitlin Clark. Like, I know you guys talked about that the one time, but you love her when she's on your team, but probably not so much when she's draining a 30-foot three.
Right. Yeah.
You guys were actually the reason that we switched to zone defense, to be honest. Like, just because the Sankson brothers could stretch us out so far, like the gaps became huge, and then you get dribble penetration with those other guys. So then we started like doing a little bit of the amoeba zone and matchups qualities with it. And I think we had success on that side too. But I know another thing I forgot to mention, like you're talking, how do you build that culture? Well, Coach Tanzilla was always better with technology than I was. Like he could make a hype video with the best of them. And I remember coming to him the one time and I'm like, we need to do low light videos when we don't play well or when we think we're getting too good. So low light would be like you dove on the floor, none of your teammates came to pick you up. Like we want to see that you didn't live up to our standard. You didn't gap defense and you didn't run back and transition. You were kind of lazy there. So like show those moments in the game where they're not living up to the standard. And maybe that's happening against somebody you're beating by 30 points, but it's not good enough. That's not who we are. Like the standard is still the standard. And if you can't beat the best teams on your schedule doing those things, so you got to figure it out. And I remember before the season too, like just to hype them up for our first 6 a.m. practice every year, Coach Tanzilla would make a video and it would be like the previous year, all the hustle plays that we had made throughout the year, like diving on the floor for a loose ball, jumping over a bench to try to save it. Like this is who we are. Like every night this can happen. It doesn't matter if we're shooting 17 threes or whatever, but the defensive end is where it's at for us.
Yeah. I like that you bring up the low light thing because I'm very emotional type coach, when it's going on, and I get really upset when like if a kid gets a sack and nobody's coming to like high five him or like yell in his face, and he's the only one. Like he's looking around for his teammates and he's not there. We had a couple of those, and I showed it in the film and be like, why is no one celebrating with him? Like
right.
Especially, I mean, football's an emotional game, and you want your team jumping on and being excited for other people making plays. So,
and even if you're not in the game, like we would always like something good happened in the game. We noticed that the bench didn't stand up and applaud. Like, are you really engaged with us? Are you really happy for your teammates or not? Or the kid comes out of the game and he's mad the coach pulled him out, so he sits and pouts on the bench instead of going down the line and giving a high five to everybody, like, and then coming back to his spot. Like, it's all those things that, I mean, it's coach speak for days. Like everybody's got culture, but like those are daily habits you got to build. And if you're going to allow those things to happen, in my experience, you're not going to be very good. Or we want to play those teams that don't have that. So,
right.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Valid point. Yeah, for sure. All right, we'll get into some softball questions because that's your current gig right now. So, obviously, your state team last year, 2023. Pretty much everyone coming back from that team, correct?
Yep, no seniors last year. So
nice. So, obviously, coming into the season, there's probably some pretty high expectations from you as the coach, and obviously from your team. How do you handle, or how do you handle those expectations with coming off a state berth and everyone coming back?
Number one, we just don't talk about it. It's the daily habits. Like we don't tell them like you should be at state. Everybody and their brother knows that we return everyone. So like,
Right.
yeah, that should be an expectation, but are we willing to do the little things behind the scenes to make that a reality or not? Like, and then at the end of the day, we went out to state last year, first round, we're the 8th seed playing number 1 Iowa City Regina. And I mean, we had a 3-2 lead in the 6th inning, and a ball fell in that we probably should have caught. It just the way that it was. So then a good team like Regina capitalizes, sends it to extra innings, and then you lose 4-3. So you're winning in the 6th inning against the state champion, who goes on and wins 13-1 and 8-1 in the championship. So it's like you're right there. And then the next day when we played the consolation game, we are ahead 3-0 in the 6th, and it got away from us on 2 home runs. So a lot of motivation for this group. They know how close they were. I think we might have been a year ahead of schedule last year. I mean, we thought it was a 2-year process, and we started slow. We were 10-10 and got hot at the right time when we figured out where to put people. We had to replace 7 starters from the year before, so it took us some time. But now it's like we're starting with a little momentum. I would probably say we have 95 to 99% weight room attendance. They're going to hitting coaches. They're going to pitching coaches. Like, they're super motivated. So now it's, can I be hard enough on them at the times they're not doing the little things and hold the standard? That's got to be my job. So they don't need to necessarily get on each other all the time about that. Got a terrific group of seniors that they will call out their teammate, like, that's not the standard. That's not how we do it here. So the other day, purposely, I was sorting out softballs by the dugout, and the girls are kind of sitting there waiting for me. And they're like, oh, it's 5:30. Let's get going. And they're teaching up the young kids how we do things pre-practice as well. So like, they're really, really bought in. I'm so excited.
It's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, like you said, there's plenty of motivation there, especially coming that close to the state champion, and that's nice that you have, that type of team that's willing to take that accountability and be leaders, and kind of, maybe it's always nice to have a group of seniors or a group of kids that comes from them too, and not only the coach. And I think your great teams have guys that are willing to step up and get on people when they need to. Because if it's always coming from the coach, eventually it might go in one ear out the other. So it's nice that you got that in your squad.
And we always tell them too, like, you better never get caught doing something that you told somebody else to do, or you lose all credibility. So like, if you're going to be that person that's going to jump people, you better not lose their respect right away because you turn around and do exactly what you told them not to. So it's like,
yeah.
And that comes from coaches too. Like, if I'm telling them they can't be arguing with the referees or do all this, and then they see me acting like a fool on the sideline.
Yeah.
Right.
Or if I don't have my emotions in check, and we've been telling them about breathing practices and press and pause and doing all these things, like, I don't know. And then another thing we do a lot of meditation, actually. We started this last year. My one assistant that's playing at Co had an experience with that. They got in the Final Four last year, and she brought that with her. And now we have a mental skills coach, Jody Stepanik, we pay her to come see us a couple times and do recordings and do like visualization and meditation. I can tell you, on the biggest stages last year, like, I did not see us panic ever. Like, even when we're playing the number 1 team and everybody's telling you're going to get 10 runned, and you're punching them in the mouth right away and you're ready to go. Yeah. Our entire run last year was through rated teams to even get to state, and we jumped on them right away, and they looked nervous and we didn't. And so I've seen big time impact, and mental health is such a big issue too. Like, it's letting them know that you're not going to win every game playing the schedule we are.
Right.
It is what it is. So you're playing a game of failure. Like, you just got to get over those things.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I was in high school, one of my coaches was big into visualization. Like, we would visualize us like doing something well on like the basketball floor or in the football field. And I think that helps get your mind right too. And if you're seeing yourself being successful in a situation you're going to be in, okay, kind of like the meditation you're talking about, if you take it serious, could definitely be beneficial for sure.
And that's where I think, like, that is an advantage in girls sports, in my opinion. I think they will eat that up a little bit more than boys. Like I think if I was a teenager and I knew it all as a boy, like thinking back to my old self, I'm not sure I would have taken it serious the first couple times, but I think what was so cool is they saw it work for them early in the season, and then it just is like, okay, this is part of our routine. This is what we do.
Right.
So
right. Well, I guess if you see results, once you see results, then there's probably the buy-in, like you said.
right.
How many, like you said, take back to our days, like if somebody said, hey, sit on the gym floor and visualize you, making a 20-foot jumper, you're like, dude, what are you talking about? Just give me the basketball.
Yeah.
Like
That's I would originally think that too, but I would do it too sometimes. But yeah. Then you got your kids that are just closing their eyes, not visualizing anything. But yeah.
And she even tells them that's okay. Like, it's okay to understand that your mind's racing right now and going over different things. Like, that's part of it too. That's kind of mindful. Like, I'm understanding I'm in a different place. I need to get my feet back where I'm at. So that's good skill to have too.
Absolutely.
Stinda, you want to read Ryan Jordan's comment?
Yeah.
Because it's a good question, I think.
He said, okay. He said, so I know the coaches, they're going to
They are coaching the right things, I think is what
they are coaching the right things. In a different universe, how do you verify the coach they are going to in the off season for instruction? And he said, example, they aren't having Kent Murphy as a coach one off season.
Dingers for days.
The right field video by Kent Murphy.
Dude, that guy, he's a legend, man. He is a legend.
Those are hilarious.
I like the bunt video too. Where it's like,
yeah.
That's good stuff.
You just go ahead and flip that coach off, right? That's what when they say that in the bunt video. He's like, gives you the bunt sign. You just go ahead and flip that coach off.
Yeah. You're here to hit dingers, and your bat flips it all the way to the universe.
Dingers,
janitor throw. Janitor throw.
I mean, that's a valid point too. Like, if they are going to hitting coach, how trustworthy are they? Well, a few years ago, they started. A lot of them went out to the same guy out by Welton for us, and we've had a lot of success with his people. So, Siri's going off. All right, but anyway, we've had a lot of success there. So then, like on the other side of it, he's teaching them technique. That should not be our job anymore as a coach. Like, if they are doing certain things, I want to get on the same page with their language. But at the same token, like, I should be talking approach with the hitter then. 2-strike approach, what I'm looking for in different counts, situational hitting. That becomes more of our motto. We're not going to do the mechanics of the swing unless that kid doesn't have a hitting coach. Then we're going to spend a little bit more time with them. So we're lucky too. Like I said, most of my assistants the last few years, or we'll have one or two that come back from college and they're already playing collegiately. So maybe they're bringing new ideas to us too, to help those kids that don't have a hitting coach. But it is a fine line. Like, you might go to somebody that just said, hey, I'm offering $25 lessons. Come see me. And then they sign up for that. And you're like, what in the world are you teaching? So that is hard. But we have, like I said, most of ours go to one person. I know another player of mine goes to Trey Hannon, who's like a Major League Baseball hitting coach. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. You got so many kids going to that and getting better. Because I always say, like, you get better as an individual in the off season, and that's pretty much in any sport. And then once your season starts, you kind of mold it together as a team and work on that a little bit more, I think. So it's nice that you have that capabilities.
I would imagine too, like, you take advantage of a lot, like you're saying, like the college coach or the college players that are playing somewhere, they're back for the summer. Like, you would think, like, how are they really going to steer them wrong? They're like playing in the, most current time frame. Like, you would think they're teaching them the right things, as opposed to,
or even like, what's a variation of this drill that you guys do that's a little bit different? Like, you're late in the season. Is it going to be monotonous and the same thing every single day? Like, or are you out there researching the best current ways? And usually, like you said, they're in the best current ways. So why not use those resources? Why be stubborn and just do the same old when they have great resource right there for you?
Yeah. I just think back when, like, I think back in the day, like when we were playing, like our eras, like you get like some of those parents or dads or moms that, were so far behind in the times, like the things they were teaching them. It's like, I don't think you can't teach kids things the way you were doing it 20 years ago, because we know 20 years later it's changed.
Right.
And I mean, that's what I would worry about now as a coach is like you said, like, well, who is this person? Like, make sure they are teaching the right things, because you get some of those people that think that it's never changed and it's all the same. And it's like, there's been so many changes, over the years as a whole.
Or somebody on social media teaching this breakthrough technique, like I see all these videos all the time for this one hitting coach that just gets ripped on Twitter every week. I can't remember what his name is, but I don't know what he's doing, but it doesn't look like anything they should be doing. And he's just getting toasted on here, like by nationally known hitting coaches. And I don't know, it's a dual threat there. Like, you have a lot of resources at your fingertips that you can get some tips to help your kids, but same token, like Ryan was saying, you better make sure they have the credentials, because it's a little sticky there.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Another thing that I always find interesting with softball and baseball. So you have, you coach basketball, so you have like your feeder program for basketball. So you probably got into the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th grade, all that, and kind of be like, hey, you guys need to run this, want you to focus on this, that kind of thing. I think like softball is probably a little different. So do you have any say of like what, there's so many travel teams out there. Do you chime in to any parents or anything about what travel teams you're putting kids on or anything like that? And I know you have a 8-year-old daughter, right? Is that what you said?
Right.
So you probably have a lot of Northeast kids, I'm assuming, on that team. But how do you approach that with your other girls?
So we kind of give them player choice, honestly. There's a lot of good ASA teams in the state right now. Like, I had one girl playing on the Iowa Premier, which they were actually encouraging not playing high school softball, so I wasn't a fan of that. But she's on the Southeast Iowa All-Stars now, and we kind of tell them too, like, make sure there's still a focus on development. Like, it's not all about games. Like, you see all the time, the USA model for sports is wacky right now. Like, everybody wants to play 150 games and not get the skills, and then you get exposed. Well, make sure you're picking the program that's going to have your best interest and develop the skills that you can be successful at the highest level. So a lot of our kids play Clinton Comets. So Diana Gardner, she's done a terrific job with that. I started in 2008 as softball coach. She started the Clinton Comets, I think, in 2010. So my first 30-win team was all those girls that had played together. So they saw a need. Like, at that time, there was nothing in the Clinton area for travel ball. They would have to go to the Quad Cities or Iowa City to get on a team. So she started this up, and now that's still going really well. We have a really good 7th grade group right now coming that is played through that the entire time. But we give them options. Like, you don't have to play for that team. And honestly, when you get to high school, we don't really care if you play travel anymore. Like, it's just the way that it is. My opinion, like, the developmental part of travel ball is the most important. So, like, when they're in those feeder program years, the 3rd grade through the 7th grade, that's when we want to see them play the most with those teams, just because, they're ready to go when they get to high school. So if they're feeling that burnout, just stop playing. That's what we're kind of preaching. But if you're not feeling that burnout, go on and play as much as you can. And once May rolls around, though, we want you in our program. We don't want you playing for the travel team. So
that makes sense.
Well, I would think that as far as the travel teams go, once they get into high school, it probably, especially a girl that is playing multiple sports, like, it's going to be difficult for them to also do travel if they're running track and playing basketball, and all that. So I would say does it dwindle down a little bit when they're getting to high school? Or
I think so. And I think it goes back to, for me, like the conversation you already had. Are they excited when your sport actually rolls around, or did they play so much throughout the spring that it's like a drag that they start practice on Monday? So it's like, I don't know, it's such a fine line. And then Coach Tanzilla and I had talked in the past, and some of the other coaches that are in my message group, like, all these kids and all these parents, like, want them to be involved in things, which is great. but I don't think you need to be in 4 sports and 4 different travel teams for those different sports. Like, I think travel sports should be for that kid that their primary sport is softball or their primary sport is basketball. Like, let that be your travel team. Enjoy your high school team on the rest of the ride. Like, if that's not what you're going to do, like, get good at something, get really, really good and be elite in something instead of just average in everything. Right. That's personal opinion for me. I don't know. I mean, there's going to be some people that disagree, but
can't keep everyone happy.
No, definitely not.
Yeah. That's I'll bring my son up again. I probably mentioned this on here in previous episodes, but he's 9 and they've been approached about doing some travel stuff and he's not ready to do it. So we're not doing it yet. We're just doing the Comanche Junior Baseball League and that's all he wants to do right now. And that's fine. But maybe down the road he will, and we'll get him on something. But I think that's the other thing too. A lot of people just are throwing their kids into something they're not ready for or don't want to do. So obviously you got to be careful with that too.
And it's so interesting too, because my daughter could have moved up to kid pitch this year, but in my mind, I'm going, is she really going to see pitches that are hittable? Like, this is the first age where those girls are learning like windmill release, and is it going to be a walk fest? Like, is coach pitch a better option at this age so they actually get pitches to hit? And
right.
So there's so many decisions, and this is just the first child that I have, so I'm like living through this and asking questions to anybody that I can. When you had Chad on, he mentioned that a couple times, like, Chad Nozell, you've been through it. Like, am I doing this right? Am I right in this thinking? Like, you've been there, done that. So I think it's leaning on all these people that have done it before and seeing what the best option is.
Here, a question for both of you guys. So I was talking to Coach Coit the other night because I'm coaching 5th and 6th grade baseball, the rec league here, the junior league, or helping out. And there's a parent, and he's telling me, and his kid's he's in 6th grade, and I never met this guy before. And he says, yeah, he doesn't want to be, he doesn't want to be here, but, I'm making him. And in my mind, I'm thinking, dude, like, no way. Like, you're making a 11-year-old kid that doesn't want to be here. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, where at what point I could see, like, you put them in T-ball, they might cry a little bit here and there, and you got to go out and talk to them, whatever, but they don't understand. But he's 11 years old. You would think at that point, you're like, you don't want to do it. You don't want to do it. Because clearly, if he doesn't want to do it in the 5th or 6th grade, what's going to make him want to do it, when you get to 9th grade or high school? So,
right.
I mean, do you see, I guess, did I really ask a question? Do you see that happen, and do you see that happen like with your programs where parents do push them too far to where they do just burn out and they're like, yeah, I'm done. I ain't doing it.
Absolutely. I think there's probably 4 or 5 girls that played growing up that aren't in the high school program now. Like, whether they got driven away by the coach or driven away by a parent or too much pressure or any of this stuff, like, to be perfect all the time. And that's the other thing. Like, sometimes it's okay to just keep your mouth shut and let them play and figure things out. I think failure is a great learning technique. And like, I think we try to spoon feed everything to everybody all the time. And that's not, I don't know what I'm trying to say there, but you just got to let them figure it out sometimes. And even like you're talking about, oh, I have to play. Well, my daughter, there was an opening with the Clinton Comets when she was 6 for 8U, and being the softball coach and wanting her to be good. I probably wanted it more than she did.
Yeah.
My wife as well. So we tried it, and she got bored and didn't want to play softball anymore. Like, after a while, because she was always in the outfield because she's the youngest. She could barely hit the ball back to the pitcher. Like, just not strong enough to do the things with these 8-year-olds. 2 years is a big difference in that age. And so we kind of just backed off and let her make the decision. Last year she played town ball, and now she wanted to play Comets, and she doesn't want to play town ball. She only wants to do the travel right now. And so instead of forcing 2 seasons on her, we're going to let her play 1 and just be excited about it and be a kid. So,
yeah. I think you probably yield better results going that route than forcing some kid to do something. They're like, I don't want to be here. Well,
And that was also like I coached soccer for 1 year, and that was just miserable. Like my kid wanted to sit underneath the blanket because it was like the coldest spring there was, and she's like 3 or 4 years old and thinking I need to be involved with what she's doing. So coaching soccer, and like 3 kids wouldn't even come on the field, so we're playing 4-on-3 or whatever. Yeah. So it was just miserable. So luckily though, like I'm not a big soccer guy, so I wasn't sad that wasn't one of the sports we continued, but.
Right.
Now back to that kid you're talking about, Stenda. Like that's also a type of kid that is going to act up in practice and be possibly a distraction and not wanting to take it serious. So then that's a problem too. But
it's been I haven't coached. The last time I coached a middle school basketball back in 18-19. But for me, it's elementary. To me, it's easy, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, but you still got a 10, 11-year-old kid. Like, if they don't want to be there, there's really no point, because for him, him or her, they're going to get absolutely nothing from it. And it's going to probably push them further away from the sport than they already are. And even if I try to make it a good, enjoyable experience for them, they don't want to be there. I mean, as a parent, you would think the parent would be like, all right, let's not waste anybody's time, and maybe that's harder as a parent because I'm not a parent, but I try to look at it from both sides. I'm like, dude, if my kid came up to me and said, Dad or Mom, I hate this, I don't want to do it. Like, I think I'd probably be like, hey, like you said, back away. Like, let's take a step back and reevaluate this.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree with that.
Yeah. 100%. All right, you got to get into Comanche Northeast rivalry talk here before we.
All right, let me charge it. I got to get this charged up.
All right, before we get into tier talk, Travis and I will talk while Stenda's getting that charged. But obviously, that's the big rivalry is Comanche Northeast, and I think there's a good amount of respect between the two schools. I mean, obviously, when we're playing. Northeast doesn't like Comanche doesn't like Northeast, and those games always seem to be a little more emotional, a little more amped up, at least in my experience. And Travis, you were assistant football for what years at Northeast?
The one you have listed on the notes where we were up 35-7. I was part of that. I was actually calling the plays that night, so that was fun.
I had to bring that up. I'm sorry, but
I was assistant for probably 3 or 4 years. I don't remember when they were. I think it would have been like Will Haskin and Nick Wall and those guys.
Yeah. Well,
for a little bit.
Yeah, and the game that you brought up, Comanche was down 35-7 at half, and I was the head JV coach that year, but I was calling the varsity offensive plays as well. And correct me if I'm wrong, was that running back you had Moore? Was that his last name?
Mitch Moore. He went down with like an ankle injury, and
he was running all over us in the first half. We had no answer for him, and then he got injured.
We had a couple of trick plays too in the first half, and then
then second half was just everything went our way, nothing went yours, and that was super emotional game. That was Eric Ritter was the head coach. That was his first win. And just, I mean, there's so many games I could list, and like 2 years ago when we came back and won again 41-40. But you guys had games like I think it was Haskins' senior year. It was like 7-7 forever, and then he had a long run to go up 14-7. You guys ended up winning that. So, and then obviously basketball, Pete just commented, Coit, JV battles and packed gyms is awesome. And I remember for basketball games, there'd be nights where like there was standing room only, and I remember before you guys had that new gym and you're in the little gym, that was just so loud and insane. And
the little knot holes where there's like 25 people in each corner of the gym, and they're like standing on the court basically. Yeah, those were some good times.
Just so much fun. And then I couldn't remember the year that I put it on the sheet here. When Kyle Dell hit that three at your place. I think that was the first year that you guys had the new gym.
Yeah,
I know it was in the new gym.
First or second.
15 maybe. He hit
That was a
that
back
three.
and forth game the whole time, and you
Yeah.
guys went to the free throw line, like a chance to go up by 3, and you missed this back end, and we get a rebound and come down in transition and penetrate the middle and kick it out to him, and he buries the 3 to win it by 1. Like, that was so loud. That was probably one of the loudest gyms I've ever been in. But
I agree. It was. I hated it, but it was a very loud gym at that time. But and then we're just going through these games here, and then the district final at Yord. That was another one where, I mean, Yord obviously has plenty of seats, but there not an empty seat in Yord that night. And we won in overtime in just like a slugfest. That game was, I think Impen was a junior that year, right?
Yep.
And Hoyer was he a sophomore?
Sophomore, he had those 2 lob dunks, and
yeah.
And we kind of returned the favor the next year. So
yeah, I was gonna say the next year you returned the favor and you beat us by like 25 that year and just took it to us. We fell apart. You guys had a good game plan, and as Pete said, those back-to-back years, place was just packed. Just a ton of fun. So, and then I'm sure you've had some softball. I haven't been to the mini Comanche
softball. Like, there
softball
hasn't, like, it's kind of been lopsided either way. Like, when Matty Parson and them were there and they're hitting those 60 home runs that one season, we took a couple on each end.
Yeah.
But recently we've been kind of taking it to them, and it just doesn't seem like the games are as close in softball, like, either way. But basketball and football have always been like, you might as well throw out the record. It does not matter. A lot of respect for Josh and what he did with that program. And, you know, he got the job over me. So that was always a chip on my shoulder. I don't know if a lot of people know that, but Coach Grimm wanted to go with somebody that had a little more and then a little more experience. So then Danny Vogel had given up basketball at Northeast. So I got that opportunity and ended up being a great place for me. Like, blue collar mentality, loved the kids that I had. Josh turned around Comanche. It took a little while, but you got the right parents in there and they really turned that around. But those last 5 or 6 years, like, holy cow, those games were just unbelievable, just slugfest. And I can honestly say they weren't, like, your last question here, I'm just going to throw it out there. What was your favorite Northeast Comanche game? Obviously the ones you win are your favorite, but same token, like, I don't know if I enjoyed any of them when we were playing or preparing, because it was like, what is Josh going to do that I've never seen before? And then I'm sure for him, like, what is Travis going to do to shut down my best guys, or is he going to throw something brand new at me? Like, we like to adapt a lot. Like, there's certain years we always were who we were, but we were not afraid to scrap what we were doing to beat a good team. So it was like, I don't know. It was just like mutual respect. Like, I know he is preparing behind the closed scenes or closed doors, and if I don't do that, then we have no chance. So it was like back to that obsessively preparing for opponents. Like,
and Josh was really good at doing kind of those outside the box things every once in a while and throwing teams for loops. He always had great game plans too. As did you. I mean, those games. I mean, there was a couple. I mean, you guys got us by 20 plus sometimes, and we didn't too. But
I remember one time. So that year that we beat you guys pretty good in the district final. Like, I remember being at your place, and it was like every 3 you put up, you ran us out of the gym. It was like 75 to 48. And like, at one point in the third quarter, I just sat down beside Pete. He's like, "What are we gonna do?" And I'm going, we're just going to let them take their beating. Like, we're not really listening. We're not doing our culture stuff. They're hitting everything. Josh is looking down the bench, clapping in my face, and I'm just like losing my damn mind. And I did the same thing. Like, I would
I was going to say,
get that note card out so I could clap a little louder, like let them know about it a little. But those were just so many fun times. But when we lost that game that night, it was like we had our team's attention the rest of the way. Like, it was, we played like complete dog crap. And when you do that and you could deviate from the plan, this is what could happen to us. But you know what? To their credit, like, they got back on the horse and really bought in the rest of the way and got rewarded with it's just weird sometimes how two good teams like that, like you could beat us by 25 and the next time we beat you by 25. It's like, how does that even happen? But
Right.
a lot of
High school
emotions tied.
basketball.
You're at the mercy of teenage kids. Like you
Yeah.
don't know where their minds are at all the time. And
Mhm.
Right.
I know most of the stuff I preach, I wish I would have known about when I was a teenager myself. So,
Right.
100%, yeah. And the other thing with, I mean, just the 10 years that you were there as head coach, I mean, just there's so many good players in both teams in those years that, I mean, it was a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
right.
Like,
Well, I know the
yeah.
one year, like they deemed it the district of death. It was like we didn't play you in the postseason, but you guys played Anamosa, who
Yeah.
had the Zumbot kid that was coming off an injury. You played
Yeah.
them at our place, and you gave them a run for their money. And then we played Tipton because it was a doubleheader, same location. They were 16-5 regular season, and we're playing them in the second round of regionals. Comanche is number 8 in the state. Anamosa was number 9, and we were number 2, all in the same pod.
Yeah.
What is going on? I don't think the state on the boys' side does a very good job of breaking people up, if I'm being honest. And the girls, they do a really good job. Like they don't care how far you got to travel. They're trying to give the best path to the number 1 seed. Number 8 might have to play some different competition, but they're trying to get their best 8 there. And I don't think the boys did that very well, to be honest.
No, and we always, I mean, you're probably in the same boat. We were always, when those come out, we're always like, I hope we go south. Hope we go south. You know, just to get away from some of those River Valley conference teams that were so good.
Cascade, Monty, and then you're playing them for a third time, and you're going.
Yep.
Anything could happen, honestly. Like you know everything about them, they know everything about you, and then you get a 48-45 game where where maybe you're playing somebody different down south and you roll them, so because they don't know anything about you,
like a West Burlington,
right?
Who gets the money from the gate?
That was always I don't want to say depressing, but it was like when you watch the team that beat you in the district final in a close game in overtime, like yourselves, and then you go in by 45 in the sub-state game. It's like, because they would have had no answer either for any of our guys.
No, you guys would have smoked them, for sure. That is frustrating. I agree.
I said when we came on is like public enemy number 1. I still walk into Comanche sometimes. I have great friends from Comanche, but even to this day, like I can walk in that gym sometimes and I am feeling the eyeballs like staring deep into my soul. And I just love that about rivalries. Like I know how people feel about Josh sometimes at our school too. So it is, I mean, that's what makes it great. But then they get to know Josh's a great guy. I think we do a lot of good things. He's a good friend of mine. He was my he actually coached at the Mount when I was there. He was the assistant and put me through a lot of shooting workouts and stuff. So love him. But when you get in those lines, I mean, it was nasty sometimes. So
that's the way it should be, though. I mean,
absolutely,
it should be. I mean, it's all love at the end of the day. It's not like you legitimately, like, personally hate each other. Just when the competition, that's what competitors do, right?
Exactly.
So when it's all said and done, you hug, you shake your hands, you give each other a hug, you love each other, and you look for it the next time you play each other.
There were numerous phone calls and text messages throughout the season, even when you're playing these common opponents all year and you're like trying to get an edge, like, hey, what'd they do to you guys in this situation? And you're sharing your ideas back and forth of how you can do these things. But for those 2 weeks when you're prepping for Comanche or you're prepping for Northeast, there's not a lot of communication going on.
No.
Other than maybe some smack talk. So.
And I don't know, Stenda, I don't know if there was any hugs after those games either, but
no, it took a few weeks, to be honest.
Did it?
Yeah.
There was one night too. I got to bring this up because this is great. I'm not gonna say the language that was involved, but we're in Yord. I think it was that first year. That first district final, we're running off the floor, and one of your crowd members, like Pete's, like excited. Zach Parson just hit a 3 to go up 19-18 going into halftime, and our kids sprint off the court. We have to run right by the Comanche fans to get downstairs at Yord, and we're running off the floor, and and like a grown man yells at Pete, like, stop clapping. What are you clapping for? Like, just like, I don't know exactly what he said, but there were some choice words. And then Pete turns right to him with his arms up. I'm right here. What you going to do about it? And then he runs downstairs and kicks the trash can. It was so awesome. Our kids wanted to run through the brick wall for that. But
yeah, Pete's a big dude too.
Coach Lee breaks his belt buckle trying to pull Pete down the stairs at Yards. So.
I don't think I didn't hear that story.
No, that's one we haven't talked too much about, but we joke about it all the time, like some of this stuff. But
yeah, sometimes the crowds both ways were a little ruthless at times for sure. But
student sections were awesome all the time.
Yep.
So
yeah.
I was gonna say, I would think the parents, honestly, from both of those schools, what I remember, like that's how it always was, even back in the day. Not the student. I mean, the student sections were good, but it was always the parents always thought, dude, like, like some of the stuff they would even like the parents would say to kids on another team.
Oh yeah.
And I would like, if somebody said to me, I'm like, I'm going up in the stand, I'm pulling you down, dude. Like,
that's the one I always have. I mean, I don't know about you, Travis, but I always would have, being the assistant coach, I'd hear some things, and I know as a head coach, you're not really zoning that in, you're focused on the game. But my thing was always like when an adult is like yelling, talking trash to a kid, I'm always like, stop, like you don't need to be doing that to the kid. Like it's one thing if the student section is, that's different.
Right.
But
well, we had a night too where, I think we were at home again and we beat in a close game. We had a good team. We did. And one of our student section members, or maybe as a former graduate, like ran by Josh and got in his face and said something to him. I'm like, we don't need to have that. Sorry.
Right.
Exactly. And obviously at that moment he's emotional too, Davis would, or you would be, but yeah, I always had an issue with that. Like don't talk to the kid or say inappropriate things to a kid, high school kid, if you're an adult, but
and I think it got a little bit better too. Like in the old gyms, you're on that front row of the bleacher and you have the seatbelt rule where you couldn't stand up and move. Yeah. And these fans are like right behind you, giving you the riot act and your timeouts and stuff. Like you couldn't get away from them. Right. I remember Josh had those little portable stools his first couple of years, but then like now in the bigger gyms, you're on those chairs. So you got at least 10 feet from the crowd, which is good. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I even remember going to Easton Valley, some of those games, and those fans are right behind you and just calling you everything that you can think of.
How hostile. That had to be super hostile.
So we had a lot of rivalries because we were going through that whole grade sharing debacle with Easton Valley. So we had that one where both communities hated each other. We had us. Monty started really taking off in basketball around that time, and Cascade was always like number 1 or number 2 at that time. So, like, if you just think about the RVC North and just the area in basketball, it's just insane. So,
yeah, it's stacked.
Yeah,
for sure. All right, that's good talk. I like that. Stenda, we got to get into tier talk here with Coach Eversmeyer. So, Coach, you've listened to our podcast, so you kind of know how this goes. We're going tier talk is best starting pitching rotations / duos you could have as well. So we'll give our list, and then we each give a 1-word response to the person's list. So any of you guys want to go first? You want me to go first? How do you want to roll it today, Stenda?
Oh, I think we should let Coach Eversmeyer. You want to go first?
I'll go first.
Let's let him go first.
Do you go 3, 2, 1, or you go 1, 2, 3?
You can do whatever, however you want to do it.
I usually go 3, 2, 1, but it's up to you. It's up to you.
So I'm a big Astros fan since like 1992. So my first rotation is going to be 2019 Houston Astros. They had a 107-55 record. Their ace was Justin Verlander at a 21-6 record with a 2.58 ERA. Had over 300 strikeouts and a whip of 0.8. So he was the ace there. Then you had Garrett Cole was the number 2. He went 20-5 with a 2.5 ERA, 326 Ks. And then about halfway through the season, they got Zach Greinke. So he went 8-1 with 100 strikeouts in his half a season. So they were only the second duo ever, Verlander and Garrett Cole, to have 300 strikeouts in the same season. So, and they lost in the World Series, so that was depressing to the Nationals, but that never should have happened. They lost in 7. My number 2 is a duo. So 2001 Diamondbacks, Randy Johnson and Kurt Schilling.
Baby. Yeah, baby. Mm-hmm.
Randy Johnson was 21-6 with a 2.4 ERA, averaged 13.4 strikeouts in a game or per 9 innings. I think he had 370 some that year. And then Kurt Schilling went 22-6 with a 2.9 ERA, and he was at 11 strikeouts per 9. And they won the World Series. So they're number 2. And number 1, and I didn't go like the old school Sandy Koufax stuff. I wanted the people that I saw. So 98 Braves would be number 1. They won 106 games. You had Maddox, Glavine, Smoltz, and Kevin Millwood. So they had probably the most complete staff, in my opinion. So
did they even have Denny Nagel too, didn't they?
Yeah.
Lefty. Yeah.
So he went 16-11. Millwood went 17-8. Maddox went 18-9. Glavine 20-6. Smoltz 17-3. Like, holy crap. But
was wild.
I mean, you got a word, Coy? Because I know
yeah, fantastic. Good. That's a good list.
I'm just gonna say, legitimate. I mean, there's only one that I have different on there. Otherwise, we have the same ones.
Yeah, we might all be in the same close here. But I'll go next.
You go, and then I'm gonna.
No, go ahead. What do you got?
I was gonna say if it wasn't, I don't know. I had a hard time with Randy Johnson and Kurt Schilling over Pedro and Kurt Schilling. Like the Bloody Sock and the Red Sox actually winning a championship too. That they were probably number 4 for me.
Yeah, that was good.
Well,
I mean, and God, Pedro, he was so electric. I mean, for being such a small guy, he had his fastball and his curveball. I mean, it was just off the table. He could throw it for a strike at any time in the count. Man, yeah, they were legit. Jeez.
All right. Well, you could have done an honorable mention like I'm going to do.
All right.
So
honorable mention.
I'll go. I considered doing 2 honorable mentions, but I only did 1. I was going back and forth between the 2001 Seattle Mariners and the 2002 Oakland A's. I'm going to go Oakland A's, the 02 Oakland A's. Tim Hudson, Mark Mulder, Barry Zito were the 3 primary guys. That was when Zito went 22 or 23-5, won the Cy Young. Mulder, I have Mulder's. Mulder was 19-7. Hudson was 15-9. They had 103 wins as a team that year. That was the Moneyball era with the A's, and not a bunch of like stars on the team, but they just got the job done, and the pitching staff was a big part of it. So that's my honorable mention. My number 3 is the duo of Randy Johnson and Kurt Schilling of the 2001 Diamondbacks. Obviously, for most of the reasons that you said, Coach Eversmeyer. One stat that stood out to me though was they were 52-13 in their starts that year. They counted for 56% of their wins, just those 2 pitchers, which is pretty wild.
I think they only won like 94 games that year or something. I was reading.
92. 92 was all in one. So it's crazy. And the other thing in the postseason, I think they were like 9-1 with a 1.3 ERA.
Yeah,
and they both got co-MVPs. So they're my 3. My number 2, and this is because I'm a big Cubs fan. I went with the 2016 World Series champion Cubs. They had 4 starters with at least 15 wins. Jason Hamill had 15 wins, Kyle Hendricks 16, Jake Arrieta 18, and then John Lester 19 wins. And then they also, their 5th guy was John Lackey, who won I think 12 games that year. But that was just a great rotation. They had a great mix of fastball guys, and then Hendricks was kind of like the Greg Maddux-esque, like the change up, spotting the ball in corners type guy. Obviously won 103 games in the World Series. So that's my number 2. And then my number 1, which I think everyone's probably is the 98 Braves. Again, they had 4 guys with over 15 wins. That's probably one of the best teams never to make a World Series, you could argue. So
Padres out of nowhere.
Padres, yeah, beat them. But yeah, that's definitely the number one in my book there. That's all I got.
Madison, Glavin, they won a World Series in '95, right? That was the year
they won one, but they won 14
Yeah.
consecutive divisions. They were just insane.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, they were good.
God, what word?
Yeah.
Be nice.
I'll say nice.
Okay.
I like it nice.
I don't like the Cubs, so I'm trying to think here. I'm just gonna go Moneyball because that was a cool story. Actually, I loved your stats there, but like
that's a great movie.
Nowhere with that roster they had to do what they did, and those guys were all young pitchers and exciting.
Yeah, that's a great movie too. Moneyball.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Zito had that dirty 12-6, didn't he?
12-6 was nasty.
12-6 was nasty.
Yeah. Be like he'd throw like a 92-mile-an-hour fastball and then throw like a 71-mile-an-hour curveball. It's like,
yeah.
He was kind of a flash in the pan, though. He just like good for a couple of years and then just 60 ERA the rest of his career.
Yeah. He only had like 3 good years, but yeah. All right, Stenda.
I didn't have an honorable mention, but I'm gonna throw this since Coit was a Cubs fan, I was a Sox fan, so I'm gonna take the 05 White Sox. 99 regular season wins. They sweep the Astros 4-0. They got Burley, Garland, Freddie Garcia. El Duque was their fifth. Between Burley, Garland, Garcia, and Contreras, they started all 4 of those guys started 32 games or more and pitched at least 205 plus innings that year. And yeah, I think, they were probably built, they were just all around, the pitching staff wasn't necessarily dominant, but, and
you had big Bobby Jenks coming out
of
the bullpen.
Yeah. They were just, that was all, Burley was he was all, he was good long-term, really out of that whole group, really Burley and Freddie Garcia, probably, longevity wise. Contreras was only really good for a couple of years. But yeah, that year was, to me, obviously I was a big Konerko fan. So, and then again, I never liked the Stros, coach. So,
right.
we had them. It was like, man, dude, get that sweep when Konerko hit that. Remember when he hit that dinger off of Brad Lidge?
Yeah, Joe Creedy owned us that year. That was not good.
Yeah. Joe Creedy. So, yeah, that was my number 3. But then 2, obviously, same thing. The big unit, Randy Johnson, Kurt Schilling. You guys already kind of covered the stats. Honestly, I think the stats, like you said, 9-1 in the postseason. Johnson was 3-0 with a 1.04 ERA during the World Series, 5-1 in the entire postseason. I mean, and then you win the World Series, beat the Yankees, and then again, number 1 Maddox, Glavine, Smoltz, and some of the stats I had was from 93 to 99. They compiled just those 3, Smoltz, Glavine, and Maddox, a 340 and 166 record, 292 ERA, and 661 starts, and they surpassed 100 wins in all but one of the 5 full-length seasons. Wow. So, I mean, then you add in that 98 season where they did win the World Series. They won in 95, Millwood and Denny Neagle. I mean, I think, they're by far, I don't, that's the best rotation I've ever, I mean, who's going to beat them?
Another honorable mention to like people that I wasn't a Cubs fan, but I had to watch Mark Pryor, Kerry Wood, and Zambrano. Like Zambrano was early; he wasn't what he was later on. But those guys were electric when I was in college. I remember watching a lot of those games. Like you're going to rack up 15 strikeouts, and I know being a Houston fan, Kerry Wood had 20 against them, like just unhittable. So it's like in their prime or when they were healthy, like holy cow, they were good.
I considered that, but I didn't want to put 2 Cubs rotations in there, so I didn't.
How long did Pryor? He didn't last very long, though, did he?
No.
Probably he probably only pitched like 6 seasons, 8 seasons, maybe. He had some injury issues though, some arm problems, but
he was never the same as what he was right away. Like holy cow.
Yeah, he was that 03 season. He was unreal. I think he was like 18-6 that year, and
then the fact that they could both hit too, like Curry was going to hit a home run, and Zambrano wasn't a bad hitter either.
Right. So, yeah. That's a good point. For the DH.
Yep.
For the DH, baby.
Yeah. Coach Eversmeyer, I'm assuming, is Nick your brother?
Yep.
Did you see his comment about you got
I
to see
haven't seen any
walk
comments.
Off? He said you got to see Creedy's walk off the Astros in person the following year.
Yeah, so I took him to a game at the Cell, and we hadn't really driven in the area by the stadium before either at that time. So that was a scary experience. And I'm wearing my Lance Berkman jersey and getting stuff thrown at me coming down the ramp after the game.
Yeah.
But we were like front row of the upper deck line home plate, and Creedy comes up and just hits a grand slam walk off to beat us. That was awesome. He's a White Sox fan, actually.
I was say, is he a White Sox fan?
Yeah, he is. Yep.
Yeah.
So
they were stacked.
They were.
I mean, they really were with Creedy, Uribe, Konerko, Jermaine Dye, Pasednik. And they were stacked. I mean, really that year. And Joe Creedy, he was.
And he had a colorful manager too. So.
Ozzie Guillen, man.
Yeah,
you can't go wrong with that guy. I loved him.
Old Ozzie. Tanner Weber brought up the Michael Barrett right hook again when he did that on AJ Pierzynski.
Yeah, whatever.
Classic.
I don't care. I think AJ would have honestly kicked his ass if he really wanted to.
Yeah, probably.
I think if he wanted to, he kind of played like, oh man, why'd you do that? It's like, I think AJ would take him.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
That'd be a good tier talk sometime. Greatest sports fights.
Yeah, it would be.
Yeah. I like that. We could definitely do that.
Yeah, we
got a lot of good ones of those too.
Yep.
So. All right. Well, we'll go ahead and wrap this up since this is a school night. But we want to thank Coach Eversmeyer for coming on and giving us some good insight, good conversation on a lot of what's going on in Northeast and with the high school sports. So thanks, Coach, for coming on, and hope you had a good time.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
No problem. Stenda, you got anything you want to end on?
Nope. Let's go Northeast, baby.
And I know we talked about the rivalry. I'm just going to get some parting shots here, but I think we'd both agree, like, everybody wins when local teams are good. Like, I mean, you're getting good gates, you're getting good atmospheres, you're quality opponents. Like, when everyone is good or raise that bar, because we knew in the offseason we had to get past Comanche at some point, like either in conference play or regionals. So like that's a driving force your entire offseason as well. So I just think, and that's what I appreciate the most too, is that I think we raised your level and you raised ours. So it's just kind of cool.
Yeah. I would 100% agree with that for sure. The gates were always big and a lot of fun for sure. So, all right.
Cool.
Well, thanks again, Coach. Appreciate it.
We'll see you.
Yep. See you later.
We'll see y'all. Take care.
Yep.